When someone says sorry for your loss once and then never follows up, it sends a message. I acknowledge your grief, but I'm not willing to stay in it with you. But when someone says, of course this still hurts, months and years after the fact, it says something radically different to your grieving friend. Your pain still matters, your loss still matters, and so do you. Words like this can change a griever's day. Used consistently, they can change the course of your relationship. And when we use them collectively, they can change our culture and the world. That is the power of words in the face of grief. Hi there, grief growers. I am so honored and grateful to be here with you today, as always. If you have been growing alongside me in my work for a while, welcome back. And if you are new to me and my work, hello. My name is Shelby Forsythia. I am a grief coach, 3-time author, and the founder of Life After Loss Academy, which is an online course and community that has helped dozens of grieving people stop feeling lost, stuck, broken, and alone, and start building lives they genuinely love from the lives loss forced them to live. This, of course, includes not only death-related losses, but also losses like divorce and breakup, major diagnosis, and any other loss that changes your life. Here on Grief Grower, we believe that grief is not something we get over. It is something that we grow with and alongside, and that when we stop treating grief like a problem to be solved, and instead start treating it like an invitation to live more deeply, we can create meaningful lives that are rich with the memories that we carry, the struggles that we faced, and the preciousness, the real, true preciousness of what it is to be alive right here and right now. Before we get into this episode, which is the 5th episode in my Supporting Someone podcast series, who knows how long this is going to go on, but I'm very excited to bring another one to you. I am so excited to tell you that release day for my 3rd book, which is called Of Course I'm Here Right Now, 3 actually helpful things to say to someone grieving, is coming up so soon on March 31st. This little guidebook, it is less than 300 pages, teaches you how to support a grieving person in your life with the best free tool that any of us has, words, so that you will never, ever enter another conversation with a grieving person wondering, what on earth do I say to comfort them? As an author, I always have to say that pre-orders are super helpful when it comes to getting the book seen by bookstores and the marketing powers that be in the world of capitalism and otherwise. So you can find a link to pre-order, Of Course I'm Here Right Now, in the show notes. If you have already pre-ordered the book, thank you so much. You can submit your receipt number from Bookshop, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local indie bookstore, on my website, shelbyforsythia.com, to access my free 6-week book club where we will read this book, Of Course I'm Here Right Now, in its entirety and discuss it together as a group. The book club kicks off in early April, so do be sure you have the book before then. And last thing, if you would like to celebrate the launch of this book with me, I am hosting 2 launch parties that I would love to see you at. The first one is taking place the eve before the book comes out here in Chicago on March 30th. The second one is the day that the book comes out, March 31st, on YouTube worldwide. So no matter where in the world you live, you can tune in to hear more about the clients and the interactions that inspired this book and what to say to someone grieving, plus hear me read some excerpts from the book live. And of course, the replay of that virtual event will be available if you can't attend in person. You can snag tickets for both of these launch events at the link in my bio. Now let's get to today's episode. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, today's episode is another one in the Supporting Someone mini-series that I have put together to talk about how do we support someone who's grieving in our lives. And I recently received a letter from someone who is supporting a grieving friend that inspired the creation of this episode. She wrote, "Hi Shelby, one of my closest coworkers just lost her partner suddenly. I have worked with her for over 5 years and consider her a real friend, not just a colleague. I sent a card and flowers right after I heard the news, but now I'm at a loss for what else to say. I want to be there for her, and I know she's really hurting, but I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing or somehow making it worse. I know from listening to your show that platitudes like time heals all and I can't imagine what you're going through are not helpful. There are a lot of articles about what not to say online and a ton of advice from grievers that says just be there, but I feel like I need to do more for her than just sit in silence with her. I don't want to disappear, but I also don't want to bug her by constantly saying, 'How are you?' either. What is the right thing to say to someone grieving? And how do I show up for my friend in a way that actually feels comforting to her?" I am so glad that you ask this question, and it is one I hear often as a grief coach who supports grievers and also who teaches the people surrounding them how to be better supports for them. It is a dilemma that plagues not just the close friends and family of grievers, but also, like you letter writer, their coworkers, their neighbors, their acquaintances, total strangers. When someone shares a grief story, what on earth do I say? Because when someone shares their pain with you, or you discover from a company-wide email or through the grapevine of gossip that someone you care about is grieving a loss, you have immediately in that moment an invisible yet significant invitation to respond compassionately to it. And far and away, the fastest, easiest, most affordable, and most comforting way you can do that is by using your words. On this episode today, I'm going to share with you why words are so important to the grieving people in your midst. I will give you my 3 short, simple phrases based on my book, Of Course I'm Here Right Now, that offer support better than cringy platitudes or cliches like time heals all, and how to be there verbally for your grieving friend, not just in the moments immediately following a loss, but also in the days and the months and even the years that follow. Something that I believe at my core, and that I have had reinforced at me or to me through my own grief experience, but also with working with grieving clients for more than 10 years, is that words are the foundation of all good grief support. And this is kind of a bummer because we live in a society that underestimates the power of words until grief enters the room. And then suddenly everyone's scrambling for the perfect thing to say, or choosing to say nothing at all. And here's what I mean by that. Society will often say things like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But if you have ever gone through deep grief, you know that that is untrue, because essentially what the phrase is saying is that words have no power. Words can't actually hurt me. Only me getting beat up is actually painful. But that's a lie, and grievers know it's a lie, and even people who have never grieved know it's a lie. Words can be painful, and words can be comforting. Simply put, words matter, and not just the hurtful ones. The kind, intentional, thoughtful words also make a difference in how we live our lives. They are one of the most powerful and completely free grief support tools that we always have at our disposal. Whether you are used to talking to a grieving person over text, email, phone, FaceTime, in person, the one thing that all of those mediums have in common is that words are the foundation of communication. Yes, there are non-language elements, things like gestures, tones of voice, facial expressions, even like physical touch, a hand on the shoulder, for in-person interactions. But so many grieving people say, and I felt this through my own experience after my mom died, my best friend died, my cat died, I had an engagement breakup, I got diagnosed with a chronic illness. Many grieving people say, words speak louder than actions. I'm going to say that again. Grieving people believe that words speak louder than actions. And I'll give you the clearest illustration I can. It is so hard to feel comforted when someone kindly touches your shoulder and says, God just needed another angel. Barf. I want to, for this letter writer specifically, but if you're listening to the show and you're like, I do not know what to say to comfort someone who is grieving, I want to reassure you that you're not the only one. It makes sense that you are unsure of what to say to your grieving friend, because a lot of articles online will say, just be there for them, or they'll say, here's what not to say, or they'll say, your presence in and of itself speaks the world. But what does that mean? Practically. Does it mean that you need to bring dinner? Does it mean that you should just sit there in silence like a bump on a log? Are you supposed to be asking questions? How are you? What's your heart like? How's your grief feeling today? Are you supposed to not be asking questions? Not everyone in life after loss is comfortable as a supporter just being there. And I really resonate with that. I'm like, no, I need to do something. I need to say something. I need to take an action in the presence of this thing. And that's something I'm actively working on, is that being a human being is very tricky for me. But so many people who are supporting grievers, they're like, I don't just want to sit there and do nothing. Because especially if you sit there and do nothing and say nothing, a lot of times that can be interpreted by a grieving person as they simply do not care. This is where language becomes your greatest grief support tool. You do not have to perform a perfect act of service. You do not have to make a casserole. You do not have to offer profound advice to the person in your midst who is grieving. You just have to speak to them in a way that says, I care, I see your pain, and I'm not going anywhere. And I want to get at why you, letter writer, and probably the person listening to the show, care so much about words and why they matter. Because underneath the question, what do I say to support someone grieving, there is a much deeper motivation. There's a much deeper desire. First, on an internal level, you want to be a good friend. You want to believe you are a good friend. You want to have this identity of, I am someone who knows how to support the people in my midst. That is not a selfish thing to want to have or be. We all want to be seen as kind, compassionate, intuitive, heartfelt people. That's an internal motivation. On an external motivation, you want to genuinely support the person in your midst who is grieving. You want to offer comfort that feels meaningful and genuinely helpful to them. You don't just want to give them a heap of words that's like, here you go, in your direction, and then they're left like, what do I do with this? Or that feels like nothing, I guess, thanks. You want to give them something that actually feels like a balm to their grief. It may not fix things because words do not have that power, but it helps them feel seen and heard and known and loved in that interaction with you. So that's your external goal. The last goal you have is one that's global. You want to live in a world where all grief, all loss, all pain, all heartbreak is met with kindness and not ignored, where it is acknowledged in the room and not forgotten. When you ask, what do I say to support someone grieving? You are not just trying to check a box or send the right text message so you can get on with your day. You are trying to make sure your grieving person feels loved and cared for and less alone in the aftermath of loss, whether it's meant days, weeks, months, or years. That desire to offer comfort in a world of dismissive, yeah, sticks and stones break my bones, is a gift. I hope, as a grief professional and as a person who has experienced many losses, that you will hold on to that. Because when we show up for one grieving person in our lives with compassion, we contribute to a world that shows up for all grieving people, today and tomorrow and years from now. You can literally create a ripple effect of compassion with words alone. Your best free tool for supporting someone in your life who's grieving. Here's the part I know you've been waiting for. The 3 phrases that every griever needs to hear from you as a person in their support system network, whether you're a friend, family member, coworker, neighbor, anyone who is adjacent to a grieving person. This framework, these 3 phrases, have arrived to me after more than a decade of teaching practical tools and comforting words to both grievers and the people supporting them. And sometimes grievers are the people supporting other grievers, so like the circle is a very complete one. The Venn diagram is a circle. Many times, the people who are supporting other people who are grieving are grievers themselves. So this is the 3-part phrase selection that helps you answer this exact question. What do I say to comfort someone who's grieving? It is the title of my book, and it also is the heart of this episode. Of course, I'm here right now. That's it. These 3 short phrases are adaptable to any situation or loss. They are authentic. They can come from your heart, and you can play with different permutations and combinations. And they, again, are effective across all types of grief. On the show, we talk about death, divorce, diagnosis, every other major life transition. They do not overwhelm. They do not pressure your griever to be anything other than what they are or what they feel in this moment. They do not minimize their grief or spiritualize the meaning behind it all. Instead, these 3 phrases affirm what they are feeling and come along beside them. They accompany them, which is exactly what grieving people need when their hearts are broken. So I'm going to take you step by step through each phrase and tell you why each one is so powerful and so significant, and kind of some examples of when and how to use them. The first one is, of course. This is your go-to phrase for validating your grieving friend's emotions. When their world has been ripped apart, grieving people often wonder if their reaction is too big or too messy or too much or taking too long. And they want to know, is it normal to feel this way? They may say things like, no one else feels like this, or I feel so crazy, or I feel so out of order, or everything is so uncertain. I have so much anxiety and I don't know why. So saying, of course, in your interactions with your friend answers the question of what do I say to someone who's grieving without making them defend or explain away their grief. You could say like, of course this is hard. Of course you can't sleep right now. Of course this still feels surreal or unreal. Of course you miss your person or your pet every minute. That makes total sense to me. Look how easy that is. Of course, insert their lived reality here. This phrase gently reminds the person that you are interacting with, you are not crazy, you are not wrong, you are not bad, you are not broken. You are simply grieving. Of course. Number 2 is I'm here. This is your best phrase for presence, because the number 1 experience that all grievers report is isolation. People vanish after the funeral, after the divorce papers are finalized, after news of the diagnosis gets lost in the next wave of to-dos and breaking world news. Text messages of support slow down, invitations to spend time together disappear, and your grieving friend is wondering, who still cares about me? Does anyone care about my loss? So saying I'm here in different permutations and combinations keeps you in their radar as a supporter in the picture of their life. You are constantly reminding them of your presence without the need to fix anything. So saying something like, I'm here for whatever you need, even if that's space. Or, I'm here and I'm not afraid of your grief. I'm not afraid that grief comes into every room with you. I'm here and I haven't forgotten that you're grieving. That's one of my favorites. I have not forgotten that you're grieving. Not just I'm here for you. It's that grief is included and your loss is included in the whole picture of who I know you to be now. I'm here. This phrase builds long-term trust, especially when you issue it every couple months, every couple weeks, with the frequency that you are used to communicating with your grieving person. Just drop it in. Just offer it as you continue to be in relationship with them. It reminds them you are not too much. I still remember your grief. I've not forgotten you, and I will not leave you alone just because time has passed. Because as we talked about in a previous episode of Grief Grower, there's the societal belief that time heals all. Oh, it's been a year. They're over it by now. They don't want to talk about it anymore. Grieving people always want to talk about their losses, their people who die, the relationship that used to be, how it's changed their life, who they see themselves to be now. There's so much to explore there. Grievers are extraordinarily rich people. And continuing to say, I'm here. I haven't forgotten your loss and how it's informed your life, and I'm not afraid. What a beautiful gift to give to somebody who's grieving in your life. Okay, the last one, number 3, is right now. And this is your phrase for context and continuity, framing the moment as it is, a hard one, but also this is not all there is, without saying that. Because you cannot walk up to a griever and say something like, this won't last forever. This is just one season of your life. All bad things end just like all good things end. This too shall pass. You cannot lay that on top of a grieving person and expect that to not feel glib or cliche or heartless. The reason that this is one of my favorite phrases to hand to grievers or to comfort grievers is that when a loss happens, especially one with a permanent outcome like a death, it is normal for your grieving person to tell the story that how they feel right now is how they're going to feel forever. I call this the plausible permanence side effect of grief. In my book, of course, right here, right now, there's a whole little section on it. In other words, the simple sentence is, because my loss is permanent, my pain must be permanent too. Right now, this tiny little 2-word phrase acknowledges that grief changes from moment to moment and also reminds your grieving person that your support is not a one-time offer. Here's some examples. Right now, I hear that it seems like nothing will ever be good again. No pressure to reply. I just wanted you to know that I'm thinking of you right now. Right now, I can see how things are really uncertain in your life, and it makes sense that they feel that way. I'm here right now, we're pairing 2 together, and I'll still be here next week. The phrase right now, just framing this moment, in this season, for the time being, in this chapter of your life, it's a prepositional phrase, subtly reminds your grieving friend that this moment is exactly that, a moment. And while it's a really hard moment to exist inside of, it is not all there is. But again, it doesn't say that. It is comforting and contextualizing that comes in the back door of their experience and says, I literally just used this the other day with my boss who's having a grief event within his family that I will not get into detail about. But I said, right now, you guys are all in the uncertainty place. The timeline is uncertain. The outcome and the circumstances surrounding it are uncertain. Right now, that is your reality. And affirming that this thing is real in this moment, that it's as hard as you think it is, and framing it right now, it doesn't necessarily, they don't need to pick up on the fact that you're saying another way of, this is not all there is. There's so much more to life than this. There will be so much more than this moment. You are simply affirming that this present moment is a hard one. And then following up with, I'm here, or of course, you are continuing to reassure them that you will be here for all the moments beyond this one too. Right now, right now, right now. Okay, now that you have heard the 3 phrases, I want to get really practical in terms of, okay, I'm writing a sympathy card, or I'm writing them a letter, I'm writing them an email, something like that. How do I use these phrases in real life? How do I use them in situations where I'm writing something down, or, and we'll get to this, if it's been weeks, months, or even years since the loss? How do I continue to use these phrases over time with someone who's grieving? So if you're writing a sympathy card, the loss just happened, and you want to reach out immediately, do not say, Dear, their name. I am so sorry for your loss. My deepest condolences. Signed, your name. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to comfort someone who's grieving. And the second biggest mistake they make after that is disappearing. That sends the message, I cared about your grief once, I acknowledged it happened, okay, bye, and just not really acknowledging how much their life has changed, how much they have changed, how much this loss informs the rest of their life, and it really makes you look like, pardon me, an asshole. You can do better, and not by being poetic or overly hopeful or like needing to inspire them like a movie scene. You simply name the truths of your grieving friend's lived reality and commit to showing up for them. So I'll give you 3 examples. Here's the first one. Dear, their name. The loss of deceased person is heartbreaking. I know how much they meant to you. Substitute pronouns as needed. Of course, this is so unfair and totally sucks. I'm here for you today and in the months to come. Easy. Second one. Hey, their name. A little more casual. I've been thinking of you every day since insert loss here. Right now, I imagine everything feels like a blur. I'm here and I'll reach out again soon. Commitment to checking in. Here's a third one. Just checking in. Their name. I love the stories you told about deceased person or pet. Of course, their death feels impossible. I hope you know I'd still love to hear stories about her, him, them. Insert pronouns here. Even at work. This is for you, coworker who wrote this letter. I'm here for you, and I haven't forgotten that you're grieving right now. These more personal words. Inside the cards, emails, text messages, these are the ones that people keep and remember and reread and cry over and carry in their purse for years. Not because they're fancy, but because they're more true and less generic than sorry for your loss, my condolences. So instead of saying something generic, they say something of substance that is personal to your griever, the person, the thing, the relationship that they lost, and most importantly, the relationship that they have with you and will continue to have with you as they continue to grieve. Let's zoom out from that first condolence card. Here's what to say to someone grieving in the days, weeks, months, years following the loss. Because, as I said, one of the biggest mistakes that comforters make when they are trying to support someone who is grieving is offering support once and then vanishing into the ether. And do not get me wrong, showing up in the moment of the loss or very shortly afterwards is important, but grieving people need and frankly deserve more than a one-time blip of poof support. Your relationship will be strengthened not by a single act or a single card or a single bouquet of flowers, but by your continued presence in their lives. So here are a few very low pressure, very short ways to keep verbally showing up in their life. So you might say in a text message, no need to respond, just thinking of you right now. After time has passed, I can imagine things still feel hard since insert loss here. Of course they do. I haven't forgotten that you're grieving, and I'm here. If you want to text a photo, this is one of my favorite tricks that I share with people who are supporting someone grieving. Text a picture of something that makes you think of them, or if you knew the person who died, saying, I saw this object that reminded me of a deceased person or pet or you today. I'm here for you and thinking of you. And then on a grief anniversary, like a death day or a birthday or a date they found out about a diagnosis or whatever it is, just wanted to say, of course today is hard and filled with memories. I'm here. Those are some examples for digital communications. You can also use them in conversation, but here's some ones that might be better for in conversation, face-to-face, over FaceTime, in real life. You might say something like, you're not too much. Of course your grief is still close to the surface. It's a big part of your life right now. You don't have to explain anything. I'm here for all of it. Right now, it makes sense that things feel more difficult than they used to before insert loss here. I'm here for this griefy version of you. I don't need you to be okay. I just want you to know that I'm sticking around. Great examples, and I'm curious about what other ones that you can come up with that offer support and use this framework, of course I'm here right now, to someone who is grieving in your life. The thing I really want to drive home before we go today is that if you think words are important after a loss, guess what? You are absolutely right. When someone says sorry for your loss once and then never follows up, it sends a message. I acknowledge your grief, but I'm not willing to stay in it with you. Even if it's unintentional, even if that's not what you meant, that silence is painful. But when someone says, of course this still hurts, I'm here right now, months and years after the fact, it says something radically different to your grieving friend. Your pain still matters, your loss still matters, and so do you. And the hill that I will die on is that words like this can change a griever's day, Used consistently, they can change the course of your relationship. And when we use them collectively, they can change our culture and the world. That is the power of words in the face of grief. So as we wrap up today, I just want to reiterate that what you say to someone grieving matters. If you are a friend, a coworker, a sibling, a boss, a neighbor asking, what do I say to someone grieving? Here is your answer. Some iteration of course, I'm here right now. Say these phrases often. Practice saying them to yourself. You can self-validate with these phrases. Of course you're feeling overwhelmed, Shelby. You're XYZ. Right now, Shelby, I know it feels like the walls are closing in. That's a way to validate yourself. I'm here for you, Shelby. I will not abandon you. You can self-practice these on yourself. I talk about how to do that, and of course, I'm here right now. Then expand these phrases once you've practiced to your closest friends and family, coworkers, neighbors, strangers. Let that circle get wider. Say versions of them in different configurations. Say them with the same level of compassion every single time, whether for a lost toy, a forgotten wallet, a promotion that was not received, or a loved one's devastating loss. Let them all hold the same weight when you respond with, of course, I'm here right now. Say these phrases so often that they become second nature to you and something that you can reach for in your pocket again and again when you encounter loss out in the world. Because words, when you choose them with care, are not just empty sounds. They are not just sticks and stones that carry no consequences. Words are connection and companionship and the foundational thread that keep people close when grief threatens to push everyone apart. And if you want more scripts like this, if you want different ways to say, of course I'm here right now, because that can get repetitive, saying, of course I'm here right now, over and over again. I've got all different kinds of ways to say this, different circumstances where they're applicable, examples from clients and stories from my own life. My new book, Of Course I'm Here Right Now, 3 actually helpful things to say to someone grieving, is filled with simple and adaptable language that helps you offer comfort that actually supports someone you care about, both right after a loss and long after the casseroles and the flowers and the meal train stop coming. Because the way we talk about grief can either shut someone down or carry them through. I invite you to choose the second option with me together. That's all for this episode of Grief Grower. Thank you so very much for joining me today. If you're looking for grief support beyond this show, you can always find free workshops, blog articles, and my new What's Your Grief Supporter Strength quiz at shelbyforsythia.com/links. And if you'd like to get support from me for your unique loss experience, you can join us anytime in Life After Loss Academy, which is my online course and community. As a student, I'll walk you through my 5-step grief framework for rebuilding after loss, and you can get live coaching from me every single week. That's right, every week, to answer your questions. Replays are always available if you can't attend live, and it's just $33 a month to join, or $22 a month if you're a marginalized or financially stressed griever. You can cancel at any time. If this podcast felt validating, helpful, educational, or useful to you, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And be sure to share Grief Grower with a friend, because you never know what someone you love is going through. Grief Grower is hosted by me, Shelby Forsythia, and the theme music is composed by our own Addie Goldstein. Until next time, Grief Growers, I see you. I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world, and I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing.